Be yourself, King. Should be yourself. And really the greatest thing that you could be is to be yourself.
What's up, everybody? This is the Ike Inspirations podcast, and today we have another great guest named Cam. And Cam is a keynote speaker and a 12 times national heavyweight boxing champion who is here to share his stories of trials and tribulations. And so I'm really glad to have him on. And there's this really great quote that you put on your Instagram that I wanted to start off with. And it's pretty much, you don't rise to the level of your potential. You fall to the level of your internal dialogue. Can you expand on that? I really thought that was powerful, and I never heard that, but I loved it. Yeah.
So I'm a big believer in speaking things into existence and speaking highly of yourself, celebrating yourself, because I believe like imposter syndrome, which many of us suffer from, is created through, and most people aren't going to like this, humility. I believe humility is a cornerstone of imposter syndrome. Someone works really hard to get somewhere. They do all the things to get to the spot, but once they get there, they don't think they deserve to be there. Because constantly from a child, you're told, be humble, don't celebrate your wins, don't worry about how great you are. But if you don't celebrate you, who else is going to? And so often I find, like, we all know, like, a very, like, entitled person.
Yeah.
Right? That person's entitled and they think they deserve certain things. Funny enough, though, they usually get the things they think they're entitled to.
Yeah.
And it bothers us because you're like, why does that person get that thing? Because that person isn't humble about what they want. We usually become as successful as we think we're supposed to be. When we're humble, how successful are you going to be?
Yeah, I mean that's a very interesting point, man. I think a lot of that humility has to do with self-worth, and I think is a lot of times I think some people I think in addition to it being a humble thing, I think a lot of people don't have that confidence or level of self-worth where they want to come off entitled or feel like they deserve something. I think nowadays a lot of people lack that self-belief, so they struggle to believe that they can do something or they're capable of becoming a champion in whatever they're striving towards.
Yeah, they're too worried about being humble.
Yeah.
The question I often ask people is, who does being humble serve? If you are constantly lowering yourself, because here's the thing, people are going to treat you as poorly as you're willing to treat yourself.
Yeah, that's true, man.
If you constantly talk down to yourself and think you're a loser and think you're not worth it and think you're not worthy, when someone else starts talking to you sideways, you're more willing to accept that type of behavior.
Interesting. Yeah, man. I've so something, man, that I would say is like I would say I'm a naturally confident person, but if I'm being honest with myself, I'm slowly building up my self-worth, and I guess I'm definitely one of the more humble dudes. And you're never gonna see me on this podcast and be like, "Oh, I'm the best podcaster of all time." Like, let me talk my shit. I'm not a talk my shit guy. Although I do appreciate people who do that, but I do think there's something admirable about it to have that unapologetic like confidence that I think often a lot of people shy away from.
Yeah. How many podcasts have you done?
I'm on my 65th one.
You know how many people don't make it to 10? First of all, do you know how many people don't start their podcast?
You're right, man.
They don't get to episode 1 because they're afraid of what other people may think. And I bet you if you go back and watch episode 1, you're terrible compared to right now.
Night and day.
So for you to take that risk to potentially look foolish starting, to get to episode 10, to get to episode 20, to get to 50, to get to where you are now and pretend like you're not the shit, my brother, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah. I think for me, bro, I like to celebrate myself quietly, but I should do a better job of doing it publicly. I don't like putting myself out on social media. I don't like bragging about it, but I feel
it's not external. It's even saying, well, I'm not going to say I'm the best. Why not? And if you aren't
Yeah.
the best, say you're going to be the best. Isn't that the
Yeah.
goal?
That is true. That is true. Why not say it? I definitely want to be one of the best, if not the best. That is easily a goal I have for sure, because podcasting is something that I would love to do for the rest of my life. And it's not really about the podcast itself. It's just the art of connecting with people on a deeper level. I feel like that. I think podcasting is such a great networking tool that affords me the ability to connect with like inspiring people like you, man. So yeah, man, your level of self-confidence and is incredible, man. And I guess it speaks towards a lot of your success. And with that being said, one of the things I'm curious to hear about, Cam, is what is the most pivotal decision you made in your life? Because like you've accomplished a lot in your life. You won multiple times as a boxer, and then you've also are a successful keynote speaker. What do you feel like was the one most important choice you made or decision you made that flipped things around for you?
I would say it would be very early in my journey. I had won nationals in 2008, and
Okay.
then some dude named John Brown sent me an email and was like, "Hey, would like you to come to Kansas City to work out in my gym for 30 days."
Yeah.
And I'd never been to Kansas City before. I couldn't point it out on a map, but I just decided to go. I'd never met this dude in my life. I just agreed to stay in his house. It was a risk. And then he invited me to stay there for an entire year in Kansas City to box. And I had to leave my family, my friends, everyone I knew for the idea of going after boxing.
Mm.
And I understood if I was leaving that much back home, I had to go hard.
Mm. So there was a social stigma of you becoming a boxer, like, because that is a thing. Like, I don't care about a lot of people saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna be a boxer," and then if they do choose that, that doesn't sound like something people like celebrate, especially if you're just starting off. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially with I got into boxing because of bullying, and
Mm.
I got beat up by a girl in high school. So even when I told my family I was going to be a boxer, they didn't believe in the vision.
Yeah.
And I mean, how could they? They
Of
couldn't see what
course.
I saw.
Yeah, especially if you got beat up by a girl, they're like, "What? I probably
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
believe you."
yeah.
Yeah.
I was never much of a fighter. Still, I'm very non-confrontational.
Yeah.
I just know how to fight now.
So you had a fight with a girl, and that pretty much sparked you into wanting to start boxing. Is that was that like the initial thing? Like, I need to learn how to defend myself. I'm tired of being bullied. Was that what kind of caused you to start it?
No, the situation with the girl was like a one-off thing, and she
Okay.
just hit me a bunch, and I couldn't hit her back. My
Yeah.
grandmother's forever in the back of my head, so I'm not gonna
Yeah.
hit a girl back. But uh, I was dealing with bullying in other senses, and I thought if I joined a boxing gym and
Mm.
learned to defend myself and looked like a boxer, I would be
Mm.
safer.
Mm.
I didn't know what anxiety was, but I knew I was afraid all the time, and this was my way of stop being afraid.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting, man. I think one of the things when you're young is like we're on a search to find yourself. And I think a lot of anxiety and fear comes from not knowing what you're good at because you don't have a much experience. But I guess once you find that one or two or whatever you're good at, it's a whole game changer. And it sounds like it transformed your life.
Oh yeah, completely. I didn't necessarily love boxing. Never watched it, wasn't a big fan of it. It just
Yeah.
happened to be the only free gym in the neighborhood. But to your point, I found something I was good at, and I had never been good at something before.
Yeah.
So I went all in.
Mm. Yeah, and so as you became a boxer and you progressed throughout your career, what would you say was the biggest struggle you faced as a boxer internally?
Uh Probably getting kicked off the 2012 Olympic team.
Oh wow, wow! Well,
Yeah.
tell us that story. What was that about, man?
So I was the number one heavyweight in the country for the previous 4 years. Won the Olympic trials and forgot to send an email saying I was leaving the country. And the drug testing agency showed up to my house to give me a random drug test. I wasn't there. Missed drug test is a positive drug test, even though I tested negative in the tournament I competed in.
Yeah.
I was still it was after Lance Armstrong went on Oprah,
Okay.
and they cracked down on a bunch of athletes for cilium fractures, and I happen to be one of those athletes.
Wow.
Fully my responsibility. I was supposed to send an email, but no one ever got in trouble for it before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you didn't think, yeah, I mean, it's hard to believe that not sending an email would be so consequential, but I guess that was the case.
Yeah, and of course, I was 23 years old. I wasn't reading fine print, and like every time I leave the country, I'm supposed to tell them. You know how many times I left the country and didn't tell them, and it worked out great.
Yeah.
I didn't even understand the consequence. Well, once I learned that consequence after I returned to boxing, I became the athlete rep for the drug testing agency to speak on behalf of the athletes.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, you have to inform us what the consequences are. I mean, I didn't want what happened to me to happen to other athletes. So,
Yeah. That's such a random thing, man. I've never heard of like, and so they kicked you out of the Olympics because you didn't send an email, and yeah.
The drug testing agency suspended me, which then removed me from competition for a year, so I couldn't fight on the Olympic team.
Wow. And I'm sorry, what year was this? You said 2012, man?
Yeah, 2012.
Wow. And so from there, like, what, like, you just had to take that L, and what was the next? What did you do after, or like, how did that affect you personally?
It sucked because I had all this momentum going in life. I was 23. I knew exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I made the right decision. I didn't go to college. I have no
Oh,
backup plan, no skills, no certification, but I'm going to the Olympics.
yeah, that's a
That's
big
going to be
deal.
worth something.
Yeah.
Then I wasn't going to the Olympics.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, who am I?
Yeah. Yeah, and that question is powerful, man. When you lose the one good thing you're really good at, it does beg that question, like, who is Cam? Who is Ike? Like, what was that struggle like? Did you have to deal with depression? Did you go about doing other things? How did you progress forward, boss?
Yeah, I would say sometimes processing your emotions is a privilege.
Mm.
As soon as that happened, I lost all my sponsorships. I lost my income. I lost my home. I lost my car. Everything was given to me by sponsors.
Wow.
So
Wait,
before I could even worry about being suspended, I had to worry, how am I going to pay my phone bill?
well, okay, because they were already paying you initially because they assumed you're going to be a part of the Olympics, so everything was given to you up front.
No, when I was in a part of this boxing program that
Yeah,
because I was going to the Olympics, they were sponsoring me. They were paying for my living expenses and everything. But
yeah.
once I lost my eligibility, I lost everything, all my
Wow,
sponsorships.
wow. And so you pretty much had no source of income, and then you couldn't even think about how you feel. You're like, bro, I need to survive. Wow, that's
Bro,
crazy.
thinking about your feelings is a privilege. A lot of people
Yeah,
don't realize that.
that
When
is
you
very
got bills
true.
to pay, like I'm a motivational speaker, but I'm not that rah-rah guy. I'm like,
Yeah,
yo, there's certain things you need to get taken care of.
yeah,
And we can all talk about being in our feelings and understanding that. Cool. Once you are no longer in survival mode,
yeah,
you could start processing feelings. But at
yeah,
that moment, it was all right, what can I do for an income?
yeah,
And my boxing coach at the time, he owned a boxing equipment company, and he had his studio that he took. He had his employees take photos in this. It looked like a boxing gym, but it was just a photo studio.
yeah.
And I asked if I could train boxers out of there, like train people out of
Mm,
there. So I put an ad on Craigslist at the time, and I had Groupon deals at the time to get people to come in to do boxing fitness training for me to make an income, because it's
yeah,
like former number one heavyweight in the boxer doing get a one-on-one session for $25. Of course you're going to do that.
yeah. Oh, yeah. That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great
And
deal.
I got 4 people in an hour, so I was making $100 an hour. At the end of the day, I'm a hustler. I'm a survivor.
Yeah,
But that's what I had to do for my income. And once that, I realized I wasn't going to go to college or get a certification or
sure.
learn anything. So I had to return to boxing. but I understood the power I had as an athlete. I understood athlete privilege. So when I returned to boxing and I was jaded, I felt like boxing was my girl. And
They broke up with you.
She broke up with me and took another boxer. So I had that resentment in me. But I said, when I'm coming back to boxing, but I'm going to use this bitch. I'm going to use her for everything she's got. So I changed my last name to Awesome. I started to market myself as this fun, outgoing guy. I started wearing capes. I was doing dances in the ring. I do crazy interviews. I had a Netflix documentary because my idea was screw boxing. I'm bigger than, like, I need, as an athlete, when I identified as an athlete, I lost everything.
Yeah.
Now I identify as an entertainer. I'm a hustler. So because I was number one boxer in the country, I started doing stand-up comedy. Now, what city are you in?
Atlanta, boss.
So if I'm in Atlanta, I'll reach out to a comedy club in Atlanta like, hey, I'm boxing this weekend. If you allow me to perform at your comedy club that weekend, I could sell a lot of tickets.
Wow.
So I was booking comedy shows. I would reach out to schools in Atlanta. I'd be speaking at schools all week. Then I would do a comedy show. Then I would fight.
Yeah. Ben, but this is actually a very interesting identity change. So you know, as a result of losing everything, by the way, I would have charged more if I was the number one heavyweight, but I would have charged like 50 or 70, or at least more than double.
I was desperate.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I feel you, bro. I feel you.
Yeah.
But regardless, like you, as a result of like losing everything, you had this like weird identity shift where now you come and start seeing yourself from like an athlete, and you're bigger than that. Now you see yourself as an entertainer, and you still you're doing comedy. So you transition from, well, you're still doing boxing, but then you added comedy to your repertoire. That's an interesting mix, man. How did that like come about? You know?
That was so when I was traveling around the country, I was driving my Prius a lot, and I would listen to stand-up comedy, and I always wanted to be a performer.
Yeah.
I thought if I became really good at boxing, I'd get my own TV show.
Okay.
This was 2008. Everyone got their own TV show.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't that far-fetched. And I was like, okay, if I'm the number one boxer in the country and I do enough crazy stuff, I'm going to get my own show. Because I want to be a performer. I didn't know how it was going to happen.
Interesting.
But when I got kicked off the Olympic team, I realized I did all this to perform, but yet I've done no performing.
Yeah.
How am I going to ever be a performer if I don't perform?
Yeah.
So I started going to open mic comedy nights and embarrassing myself there until I got good enough to be decent.
So you really didn't. I mean, I don't want to say you didn't care about boxing, but for you, it was more of like a means to an end. It sounds like, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. And so then you did open mic comedy, and what was that process about? Because I feel like I know with a lot of comedians, I've watched their podcasts, they often talk about the difficulties in that. And I feel like, I don't know, bro. I'm not gonna lie. If I was a comedian, I would feel like, bro, what the hell am I doing, bro? Like, I'm trying to make people laugh. Maybe it's because I'm not naturally funny. But I'm like, what the hell am I doing, bro? Like, why am I like trying to make people laugh? Like, it would make me feel so insecure. But I'm not called to be a comedian, so you know what I'm saying.
So what I realized is it's funny people aren't necessarily good at stand-up.
Okay.
Just like the way if someone's really good at baseball, they're not going to be really good at cricket. It's like it's a completely different thing. It's an art, it's a skill, and it's a puzzle. Once you figure out your personality and the hardest part is getting comfortable on stage.
Okay.
And that's the first year of a comic's career. They do a lot of like dick jokes, a lot of inappropriate jokes, and it's for shock humor because they're learning, like a kid learns how to speak and they're waiting for reactions.
Yeah.
That's how you are as a comic, because you don't know what funny is yet.
Yeah.
But you know saying the F-bomb will get the audience to react.
Sure.
So you're learning that give and take through the audience, and then you realize what funny is and what your funny is.
Yeah, and for me, and one of the weird things about stand-up comedy, at least for me, is like, don't get me wrong, I love to laugh. Like I don't know who doesn't, but it's always weird for me when because stand-up comedy is like, obviously you're trying to be funny, like that's your job. Like it's always, for me, that makes it harder. I think the funniest things is like when it's just natural and the guy's not even trying to be funny, and he's like, what the, that to me is funny. Once I already kind of know like the goal of whatever you're doing is to be funny, I'm kind of already my guards up, like, you know what I'm saying? And so I feel like that already makes it harder for stand-up comedians, if you get what I'm saying, you know?
Oh
Like,
yeah,
yeah, you know, yeah.
yeah. That's the hard, but you have to break the ice of that audience because you're really standing in front of them with a microphone for no reason.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. That's what I,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I always think. Yeah,
Your job is to make it not weird and
yeah,
make them so comfortable that they can laugh as if it's not weird.
yeah.
That's the art behind it.
Yeah, yeah. No, man, it's an incredible art, and I have a deep respect for it. I'm definitely not a comic, but my favorite comedian is Dave Chappelle, and I love the way he speaks to the audience and commands a crowd. And I think he does a good way of displaying his truth. But it's just like he's just talking. Like it's kind of, it's weird. Like it doesn't even seem like he's trying to be funny. He's just talking, and he just ends up being funny. I don't know.
He
Yeah.
transcended comedy. And
Yeah.
Yeah, because he died. Because how old are you?
29.
29. Okay, so when he had the Chappelle show,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He was like a god, and then
Yeah.
he essentially he disappeared. So like to us, he like died.
Yeah.
But then he came back.
Yeah.
Usually when people come back, they're never better.
Yeah.
Because the reason why they left is usually drugs or something like that. But
Mhm.
he came back. He was sharp. He was jacked,
Yeah.
and he's so in comedy. When I first get on stage, I have to do a good joke right off the bat to get your attention
Okay.
because I haven't bought your
The
trust
audience. Yeah. Yeah.
for me to do a 6-minute joke for that laughter to pay off at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dave Chappelle has earned that so much so
Yeah.
that he has time to command an audience and not be
Yeah.
funny and get his point across. But then he's also so great when his point does come across, it's very funny.
Yeah. And man, I think you said that really well. And with him, like I'm always, whenever I speak, I'm always in absolutely awe of how like effortless it is. Like it's like with most comics, you can tell that like they're putting on a personality or like, you know, maybe adding a lot more energy. With Dave, you don't get that. It's like you just sound like you're talking to another, like he's just being himself. Like you know, which I think is super cool. Like, you know, and I guess he's one. That's why he's my favorite, because like he has this like effortless way of being funny, where it literally just sounds like he's having a conversation with you. Or you just saw how it makes it funny every conversation he does. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how good he is, and it seems like he's not even trying.
Yeah. And then in addition to that, like the power of comedy, I have massive respect for it, because I feel like you can tell the truth without really. I feel like it's one of the few platforms where you can tell the truth, and like, because if you're funny enough, you can just get away with it. I feel like nowadays, like the world is so sensitive, it's hard to speak the truth.
I figured out why the world is sensitive.
Okay.
I don't have you ever worked in a warehouse?
No, I have not, sir.
Okay. Well, so think of it like this. There's a warehouse connected to the office. The office does like the shipping and all of that, right?
Yeah.
And they have office chairs and computer and Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
The office people talk and behave way different than the warehouse people. It's a completely different culture. The jokes you can say in the warehouse, you can't say in the office space.
Yeah.
The problem is people in the office space now have the internet. Because they have a corporate job, they have to carry themselves in a certain way. They can't laugh at certain jokes. They can't be who they want to be when that person's inappropriate. And then they're at work and they're seeing other people online get to be free and be who they want to be, and they're not watched. So those people are overly sensitive, like, hey, why do you get to say these things? I don't get to say them. Let's ruin that guy's life. It's like the warehouse workers are interacting with the office people. It shouldn't happen.
And so you think those people are jealous of the freedom that those comics express because they don't feel free in themselves?
Oh, I'm not even talking about comics. I'm just talking about everyday people.
Yeah.
Like, you have to act a certain way at work. You have to carry yourself in a certain way.
Yeah.
But now the lines are blurred because at home, should be able to loosen up and be the person you wanted to be.
Yeah.
But you can't, because there's always pictures, there's social media. You can't behave a certain way if you got a certain job.
Yeah.
So now you always have to be that inauthentic person.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I it's an interesting point you raised. Have you watched the show on Apple TV called Severance?
I got into the first season and I stopped like 4 or 5 episodes in when I
Okay.
realized it was just going to be a series.
Yeah.
Because by the time season 2 comes together, I'm going to forget season 1. By the time season 3 comes, I forgot season 1 too.
I don't blame you. Well, to be fair, I did watch the two seasons. Season 1 was definitely the best one. But the reason why I asked you, have you watched Severance, is because it reminds me of that corporate vibe you're speaking to, and I feel like corporations, in my opinion, are inherently emasculating because you don't have the opportunity to really be yourself. You have to attend all these dumb meetings that you don't really give a shit about, and most of the time, like, you'll be in a meeting of like 15, 20 people and it's dominated by like 2 people. I'm like, bro, why am I here? Like, that's how I feel. I have some of these jobs, man. I'm sorry, I know how you feel, and I hate environments where you can't be yourself. I hate those environments. Just anyway, corporation is one of the biggest, but to me, any environment that doesn't allow you to be yourself is like a huge red flag for me, you know?
Yeah, but it's a lot of times connected to our food, our shelter, and our well-being.
Yeah.
So you get in line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get in line. Yeah, you get
So
in line.
that's why I'm big in entrepreneurism.
Same.
There's a lot of complaints about the corporate ladder and how you have to be and what you have to look like to get on top. Yo, build your own ladder.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of building my own ladder, because
Same.
if I make $10 working for myself, to me that's as powerful as making $1 million working for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Because that stupid meeting I don't want to go to.
Yeah.
The meeting might not be stupid, but I think it's stupid.
Yeah.
And if I'm so sure that meeting's stupid, why don't I go start my own business?
Yeah.
And I started my own business. Yo, I have a lot of meetings.
Nah, you're the meeting guy.
Now I'm the meeting guy.
Oh, that's so funny, man. It's interesting, man. The nature of entrepreneurship, man. You know, so I do have a full-time job. I'm a pharmacist, and I don't take that job for granted. But then I also have my own side gigs, like this podcast. I'm a real estate investor, and I also DJ on the side. And so those are other my streams of income. But I've always appreciated entrepreneurship because for me, outside of the ability to make money, it's another avenue to create the life you desire. That's more of what I'm interested in. And it sounds like that's the case for you. Like, and that's why I love having entrepreneurs on the show, because it's not for me, not just about the money. Like, that's great. How much money you're making is great. But it's like, you're really creating your own life. And like, that's not an opportunity I feel like a lot of people even strive towards or even afford it.
Yeah, I don't think they think it's possible.
Yeah.
Because when you grow up, and I love educators. I always celebrate educators. They're never appreciated enough.
Mm-hmm.
But educators aren't normally entrepreneurs. They're teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So you're around an environment your whole life where you're not around entrepreneurs. To you see the idea of getting a job, falling in line, meeting a role, getting a consistent paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
That's so normalized.
Yeah.
That the idea of starting your own business, or starting your own car detailing company, or starting your own construction company, that is so far-fetched to most human beings, but they don't realize an LLC costs like $39.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, like, in addition to that, like, let's think about how many people are in jobs that they don't even care about. So then that means that, like, you're not even identifying with your true self, which will eventually lead to misery in some way. Like, if you're doing a job you don't care about, whatever it is, an office job, a work job, a janitor job, that's the key to just being depressed, because you're like, this is not who you really are, you know.
Yeah. Also, anyone who's listening to this, if you have children or any dependents, do not take my advice. Like,
Okay.
I am very, because I don't got no kids. No one's relying on me. So my running joke with my buddy Matt Mays is, if life goes to shit, I always got your couch, because I'll be living recklessly. And bro, when 2012, when I got suspended, literally the first person I called was Matt. And he picked me up from the airport.
Yeah.
Like, so when I say, like, if you're miserable at your job, look at what your expenses are. Like, let's be real for a second. Look at what your expenses are. See where you can make cuts. Do you need every streaming service? Do you need to get your nails done? Can you eat at home more? And if you can find out how to cut a lot of your expenses, then you don't need to work as much as you do.
Yeah.
And if you can, and if you can lower your expenses, you can take your foot off first and steal second. Because so often we got our foot off first, but we're afraid to make that rush to second base, because what if we run out of money? What if something happens? But it's like, you can't spend the whole game on first.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually glad that you mentioned that, because, you know, as much as I do love entrepreneurship, I also do think it's fair to acknowledge, like, it's not for everyone. Man, there's just so much risk, bro. And there's just so much uncertainties. And just learning how to deal with those uncertainties is something that I'm constantly having to learn on my own too. And I can see why entrepreneurship is not for the weak. You know, you really have to have like a certain mindset. You know what I'm saying? I will say though, having more experience builds you up. You know what I'm saying? And those failures build you up. But there's just so many unexpected turns that can just come. Unlike the stability that a 9-to-5 gives you, where, you know, you're getting that consistent paycheck. And
you know, health insurance, my guy.
Yeah.
Health insurance.
You're talking to a pharmacist, man. So I know you. I know more. I know more. Trust me. I know more than you. Trust me. I know more than you. Than you. I can go on a whole vent about that, bro. I trust me. I hate health insurance so much, especially in the American healthcare system. And I get like growing old, because I was young, I was always afforded the luxury of pretty much being relatively healthy. But as I got older and started working in the pharmacist field, I completely understand why people value their healthcare insurance, bro, because these medications can cost you these just getting sick, and if you have no insurance, can bankrupt you, bro. Like really, like, you know.
Yeah. So it's like, do you want to take your foot off first and go to second? Because on your way to second, you might sprain your ankle. You can't afford a sprained ankle. Yeah. And so it's like when I preface my advice with saying, yo, if you got dependents, don't take my advice. Like, because I take chances. My whole thing is, I swing for the fences. I miss. I go back to the dugout with my head held high. Yeah. Because no one's relying on me. Yeah. That's a whole nother game. If someone was relying on you, I don't know if you can really keep that same energy, you know, especially if you had a son or a wife depending on you. That's a whole nother different pressure. But I feel like you're probably man enough. There's this quote, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. You seem like you're okay dying by the sword. Yeah. You know? I've died by the sword a couple times, but that's to me, that's like a part of the game. And I don't feel any shame in it. Like, I would feel more shame not trying and judging other people who are trying than trying myself. You can't judge me if you haven't done what I've done. And if you've done what I've done, you would never try to judge me, because I know people who do what I do, entrepreneurs and stuff. You out here, I won't judge you. You fall on your face, I celebrate you for it. Like, you tried. Failure's a filter. That didn't work. What's next? So you miss every shot you don't take. Like it sounds like, but also, who's checking field goal percentages? No one cares. You can miss all the shots. You no one cares. To make one of those motherfuckers. Yeah, that's true. No one cares. No one cares. It's just your ego. Yeah. Like, oh man, I missed my last shot. Everyone's gonna think I'm a loser. I can't make any. Or you could just say, yo, I'm dope. I miss sometimes, but I'm dope. I'm awesome. I changed my last name to Awesome to celebrate myself. Yeah. By the way, I love that. And we should speak more about that. But then it goes back to the quote we started with. You don't rise to the level of your potential. You fall to the level of your internal dialogue. And I feel like
it's always really the story you're telling yourself when you're failing or not achieving. What is it? Oh man, like I suck, like I'm not good enough. Or is it like, man, I'm gonna get it next time? I feel like that internal dialogue you're telling yourself is so important.
Yeah. So what do you tell yourself when you're losing? But also, what do you tell yourself when you're winning?
Hmm.
Because you might be winning and
Yeah.
instead of feeling good, you're like, oh, I got lucky this time.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's no accident. You are amazing. Just like you saying, like, I'm not the greatest podcast. Yes, you are.
Yeah. As of today, I'm the greatest podcast of all time.
And if you find any ways to improve, continue to improve.
Yeah.
But you never gonna be the best until you say you are,
And you act like it too and
and
behave like
you
it.
gotta believe it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yo, man. Yeah, this is good, man. It's because it's one thing to say, another thing is another to believe it. And so, we mentioned you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Did you have like a favorite death or a death that really like twisted you up and changed you for like the better? Because look, man,
Oh,
the problem, like you have like, because like, so you're very successful. You won boxing 12 times, but I think a lot of people who are successful, they have rewired themselves to like when they fail, they don't even think of it as failure, or they just think of it as part of it being the process. Where I think a lot of people, when something hard happens, it's too much for them, and they're like, that's when they crumble. So I think you probably went through a lot more failures than most people. You just didn't view it like that, and so it didn't bother you, if that makes sense.
oh yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like when people find out I got like 400 wins in boxing,
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh man," I'm like, "Yeah, I got 39 losses."
Yeah.
But no one wonders about the losses.
Yeah.
Imagine if I would have stopped at 15 losses. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
accomplished 400 wins. So like I see all of my losses as just tools and just a filter. It's just lessons. They're not losses.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the way I've been going about things. And if there was one thing that kind of shaped me
Yeah.
was when I decided to retire from boxing and transition into speaking.
Mm.
I went from being literally the number one person at what I do in the entire country. I was
Mm.
I was at the top of my game at something, and then I
Yeah.
had to go start from the bottom in the speaking
Mm.
world because I wasn't like LeBron James can read his grocery list and we'll be like, "What a great
Yeah.
speech." I ain't
You're
him.
not that. Yeah.
I got to show up with a good story. I got to show up with communication skills. I got to show up with jokes, wordplay, and I had to start from the very bottom in the speaking world. And in 2017, I was living in a van because I couldn't afford to
Wow.
live and chase this dream.
Yeah. And see, that's why not everyone wants to do entrepreneurship. Who the hell? Some people don't want to live in a van, and I'm not kicking you for that. I respect
Bro.
it, man. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. I'm never gonna make fun of how a man attempts to achieve his dreams. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But
Oh,
not
yeah,
everyone
yeah.
wants to do that. Not everyone wants to do that.
Some people like having a bathroom where they sleep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I slept outside Walmart parking lots because any
Mm,
24-hour Walmart you can sleep in for free.
yeah.
And I would shower at Planet Fitness and I had a folding desk. And I would bring the folding desk into the tanning booth,
Mm,
at Planet Fitness, and that was my work office. I'd use their Wi-Fi, and
mm.
I would I was speaking at schools around the country, so I'd be in Louisiana at a random Planet Fitness, emailing schools and trying to get booked at a gig because
Yeah,
I have no money and I need to
yeah,
be able to get enough money to get to the next city.
yeah. And
That
for
yeah,
you,
entrepreneurship ain't for everybody.
the thought of that getting a job just didn't even occur to you. That was not even a thing. It wasn't like, oh, like let me try. You were just like, that's not even an option.
I know you could only get it. It's unlikely you get a job more than once.
Mm,
It's like if I stepped away from my dream to go get a job,
yeah,
understanding what it's like to have that security of a paycheck every week,
yeah,
understanding what it's like to have health insurance, going to
yeah,
the doctor, being able to have the money to take a girl out to eat,
yeah.
like buy myself new clothes. If I see what it's like to be comfortable, I'm less likely to leave first and go steal second base because I'm
Mm,
safe at my job.
mm.
So other than Waffle House at 18, I've never had a job because I was always afraid if I went down that road. Yeah. And in those moments of suffering, this song came out a while ago, but it was a Kanye West song.
I love Kanye.
During these times,
not
this
this Kanye, but
Kanye.
But old Kanye. I miss the old Kanye. Yeah, not this Kanye. I don't know what he's on now, but the old Kanye. Yeah, with the graduation and late registration. We love him. Yeah.
But I would constantly say in my head, especially when things weren't going right. It was la 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 la. Wait till I get my money right. La la. That's that song will constantly because I'm like,
is that stronger? Is that stronger? What's it called? Is that
wait till I get my money right?
Oh, that's the name of the song. Okay.
Yeah. And I would in my head play that over and over again because I'm like, okay, I look stupid now. Okay, I left boxing. I took a chance on the speaking stuff. It's not very successful right now, but I believe in it. And even though I look silly right now, la, 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 whatever you got to tell yourself. What I realized, the whole idea of resilience is finding hope.
Yeah.
Lie to yourself, be delusional, say whatever you need to so you don't give up. Because if you do it long enough, it'll eventually catch on. So you just got to trick yourself to not give up.
Yeah. And, like you said, you mentioned you have no dependence. I'm gonna be honest, because women aren't as risk averse when just speaking in general, I feel like if you did have maybe, I don't know your personal life, but if you had a woman or a mother, I know they are very they're giving you the pressure to get a job because they want you to experience security. They couldn't handle that type of pain themselves, so they're gonna project onto you, and they're always the first ones to say, "Well, get a job," blah blah blah. What I'm saying, and that makes it even more harder because they're not wrong, but it's it comes at a cost for certain types of people.
I would say first for any guy or girl.
Yeah.
Be careful if you're dating somebody with a dream.
Yeah.
You are dating that person likely because they're the type of person to have a dream.
Yeah.
They can't stop that dream for you because you're no longer going to love them because they won't be them. Now, I was very clear in all of my relationships in my 20s that so when I was 18, I dated a girl with a kid. It was only for a few months.
Okay.
And I never even, I did meet the kid, but it was nothing serious.
Sure.
But in the very beginning, she sat me down. She said, "You will never be my number one. My son will always be my number one." And I felt away. I was like, well, if I can't be your number one, you can't be my number one. So boxing is my number one. And that was our agreement. We only lasted a few months. But after that, I introduced every relationship as, yo, girl, just know if it's your birthday or the gym, I'm going to go get my swole on.
Yeah, I'm going to the gym.
And and it's a lonely life because you can't create certain deep, meaningful relationships when you see people in that light. But to me, my dream was worth it. And now I look back and like just a random girl I was talking to at 24 that I should never miss the gym to go hang out with that girl. And I didn't. And I don't even know who she is today.
Yeah. It's interesting, man, how life works. Cause when you're younger and you have those relationships, because you never had relationship experience or maybe not enough women, they feel like such a big deal at the time. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh man, I really gotta respect this girl and put everything on there because you don't have that experience. But as you get older, I think you learn the importance of putting yourself first and no matter what. And if you're with the right girl, she'll respect that, so I'm with you, man. And I'm curious, man, because you're so successful in as a boxer. Why did you feel the need to transition to keynote speaking? Because you're winning 400 to 39. That's crazy, bro. What made you want to stop? Just curious,
So I joined boxing because of bullying, and then I found out that I was good at it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't necessarily like it.
Oh, okay.
It was just something I was good at,
You're just
and
good
I
at it.
realized the
Gotcha.
doors it can open. Bro, I got to travel to over 30 countries representing Team USA.
Yeah.
Like that was an amazing experience. I couldn't afford that otherwise.
Yeah.
So I did that. I enjoyed the hell out of my 20s, bro.
Yeah.
You're just
I'm sure
partying
you
in
did.
different countries while
Oh,
you're
I'm sure
training,
you did.
and it was, bro. Let me tell you, it was a good
Oh,
time.
I'm sure you had a great time, man. You seem like one of those guys who just lives it up no matter what. Yeah,
That was
I'm sure.
I think I ruined some careers because I'm about a certain way, but other people try to keep up with your boy, and they're
Yeah.
not built the same.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but that's funny, man. So yeah. I mean, honestly, as you were speaking, it sounded like you're more passionate about being an entertainer than the act of boxing. Because even just hearing you talk about comedy, you sound like you're more excited about that, or just
Ah,
entertainment, or performance, which is interesting to me because you got so much success as a boxer. Did that have like a weird psychological like internal impact on you? Like everyone, like the world kind of values you as a boxer, but you don't value it as much internally.
oh, I knew exactly what I was doing. So
Yeah.
when I didn't go to college, I looked at it in a very specific way.
Yeah.
If you had an associate's degree and I had a national championship and we applied for the same marketing job, who do you think's gonna get it?
Oh, I see. I see.
If you have a bachelor's degree and I have 4 national championships
Yeah.
and we apply for the same job. So I understood the power of athlete privilege. After I won my
Mm.
5th national championship, I understood that I got doors opened. At this point, it's just fun. I can't fail.
That's interesting. So that's how you were looking at it from a longevity perspective and a personal brand. Do you know what your story reminds me of? Man, Chad Ochocinco. You're from you know,
Yeah,
yeah, he was doing the same thing. Like he was being like overly rambunctious and like having a strong personality, literally with the mindset of what you're saying. Like, because he's like, you know, he knew eventually he wasn't gonna play football forever. It was gonna end, but he was setting himself up to be a personal brand so he can literally like do anything and prosper anywhere.
yeah. That was my whole plan, and I thought it would be through stand-up comedy, but I was going back to schools to speak about bullying, and I ended up being a speaker. I still do comedy. Comedy doesn't pay the bills, but I just recently moved to Austin because it's
Okay.
a
That's a
pretty cool
comedy
comedy scene
place.
down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I moved down here for that, so I'm living my dream. If you were to ask me, I didn't think the dream would look like this when I first started.
No, yeah.
But yeah, you don't know. So you can visualize what you want,
Yes.
and I visualized what I wanted. I got it.
But not
I
how you
wasn't.
expected.
It's not how I expected. So I would say, if anyone's out there visualizing what you want, be as specific as possible.
Hmm. Yeah, it's like, you know, yeah, I love that. Be so specific that so that you're clear on that. Yeah, man, it's the nature of dreams and how dreams manifest and come about in your life is it's very interesting, man. I think about it so much, man. Like, you know, right now I'm 29 and I still have a lot of life to live. But when I think about me living my dreams, I am living my dreams, but it's not in the way I would look at it. So when I was a kid, I used to dream. I always thought MLK was like the coolest guy. I'm not gonna lie, Martin Luther. I always thought he was the coolest guy because I've always in awe of people who can just passionately speak their mind and lead for such a purpose. And I was like, man, like one day I'm gonna be a public speaker. Like I'm gonna be doing something like that. You know, I'm gonna have some type of purpose that's gonna ignite people. And I never envisioned it being a platform like a podcast. Back then, podcasting was
Yeah,
not the same. It was just like, oh, whatever. Like, you know,
yeah,
I didn't think it would be this, but this platform I have has given me the opportunity to do that in a way that I'm very grateful for, and it's create that spirit in me. Now, you know, the amount of people I'm doing it, that's a whole nother thing, but it gives me that spirit and that and it aligns me with my purpose, and it's something I look forward to every day. Like, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes it's like working out in the gym, the way I look at podcasts, and like it's like sometimes you're kind of like it's like, oh, I don't want to do this workout, but then when you do the workout, it's like I'm so glad I did it. That's kind of how I feel about podcasting. Sometimes I'm like, hey, do I really want to have an hour and a half conversation with someone I never met? But then when I do hour and a half of conversation with someone I never met, I'm like, dude, that was awesome. Like, I love this. Like, I want to keep doing this.
I'd say I never had a workout I've regretted.
Yeah.
But there's been every workout I regret getting dressed. I'm like, oh man, why are we doing this? And as soon as I start getting sweaty, I'm like, this is why we do this.
Yeah.
You get that good feeling.
Yeah, man. And so, yeah, man. I mean, so it's interesting. So you transitioned from boxing to keynote speaking, and what has that transition been like, man? I'm always curious when people like change their identities, especially when the identity is so drastic. Like, you will go from just being this huge physical athletic specimen to like someone who now has to depend on his voice. What is that like?
Yeah, well, in boxing, I never saw myself as a boxer. I always saw myself as like an entertainer or performer. So when it was time to leave the boxing ring, a stage was really no different than what I was doing. So I thought it would be an easy transition.
Okay, that's interesting.
What I didn't foresee is the skill that is communication, which I just thought I can say what I was saying, but I'm like, oh, I can't just say what I'm saying. I need to say it in a way that's palatable for my audience. And that has forced me to work on my communication skills. And so transparency, the reason why I'm doing podcasts is every time I do a podcast, you'll ask me a question that I would never have thought to answer before.
Sure.
And I have to communicate that on camera, on the spot.
Off the beat. Yeah, off the point. Yeah.
And it forces me to create content constantly and be sharp. And I can practice something on your podcast. If I flub something up, I can fix it or correct it. But if I say a story, let's say I do 10 podcasts and I say a story 10 times, the 10th time that story is going to be so much better than the first time. Just like you from podcast 1 to 10. So when I'm able to take these stories on stage and do it at a keynote, it's so much more powerful, and it's smooth, and it's rehearsed almost.
That's interesting, man. I've never had a guest say like one of the reasons why they're doing a podcast is like it feels like batting practice for them, like a way to improve. I respect it. I never looked at it like that, but it makes sense, man, because man, like I've always enjoyed podcasting, and one of the reasons why I'm on like my 65th or like 66th episode is I just love the man I'm becoming, bro. Like, and perhaps one of my favorite things I love that I'm becoming is my ability to communicate. That was something I would never say I was as good at or as confident in, but now like I feel like I can talk to any and anyone. I have real estate investors on. I have DJs on. I have athletes on. I've had rappers on. And I feel like whoever I talk to, like, I don't care. Like, I can still talk to them and make it engaging enough. And that's such a powerful skill that, like, I feel like is so translatable to the world. And, like, the fact that you can go to anywhere, and if you listen well enough and communicate well enough, you can connect to them on a deeper level, you know?
Yeah, I love it. It's a skill.
Yeah, it's a skill for sure. It's a skill that we're all harnessing. And so, what has that process of like of upgrading that skill look like for you? You know, because now that's like your new like way of living.
Yeah, so I wanted to do stand-up comedy, so I would go to schools and do school assemblies, and man, it would be funny. The kids would be dying with laughter. I would connect with the kids, and the kids liked it. The principal didn't. The principal didn't pay me to do a comedy show. He paid me for me to get a certain message to the students.
Yeah.
So I had to take the entertainment of my speech slightly down and the information slightly up.
Okay.
And I found a mix of humor, storytelling, and to come to a point.
Yeah.
And I living in the van, I would speak at 200 schools a year. I've done this speech over 1,000 times.
Wow.
When I tell you it is tight, and I would get such positive feedback that teachers would connect me with their significant others, and I would go speak at businesses. And
Yeah.
I've become a corporate speaker now, and it's very much the same speech I give to middle schoolers, because
Wow.
adults are just children who can drive.
Yeah.
Like, we all want to be entertained, we all want to be engaged, we all want to hear relatable stories.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you go about doing a bunch of different speeches, and after doing it for such a long time, it's become second nature. Well, I'm just curious, like what is like this speech that you've been practicing? Like, what is it? You don't have to say it, but like, maybe like summarize it.
The summarizing is, if you can fail without being discouraged, success becomes inevitable.
Mm.
And we don't quit when we fail, we quit when we get discouraged.
Mm.
And a lot of us get discouraged before we even start, so we don't. So I share the story of, when you set the idea of goal setting, is to set the biggest goal possible. Because if you set a goal so big that it's almost impossible for you to get it, it releases the idea of failure from your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So my goal when I first started boxing, I never made a sport, never made a team. My goal was the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
That's very unlikely for somebody who's not athletic.
Yeah.
But because that was my goal and I set my plan for that goal, I qualified for the 2008 Olympic trials, lost. Won the 2012 Olympic trials, got suspended. Won the 2016 Olympic trials, but lost an international competition and didn't get to go to Rio. And then fought for the 2020 games for the country Trinidad and Tobago. That's where my dad's from. Won the Olympic trials for them, but because the pandemic happened, they didn't send a team. So I went to 4 Olympic trials. I won 3 of them. I've never gone to the Olympics. I'm one of the most decorated boxers in U.S. history.
Yeah.
But I didn't make my goal. So the idea is, do you consider my journey a failure?
Yeah.
Because I don't. I won more boxing matches than anybody else. I've won more national championships than most people. But if I were to set my goal for something smaller that I could have easily gotten, I wouldn't have accomplished as much as I did.
Interesting. Yeah. I just, it's interesting. It's like there's a dichotomy between failure and success. And I feel like a lot of people, I wish more people looked at it as a prerequisite for success. I think failure is necessary, like, and it's literally just a part of what you're doing. But I'm always, it's like what you mentioned about the internal dialogue, man. I always think it's the internal dialogue that people are having that really shapes how someone goes about winning in whatever their craft is, and I know you wrote a book that was pretty much what you said, right? And it's becoming awesome, how to make success inevitable. That was very much what the book is. So not only did you say it 100 times or practice it so much time in person, but you also wrote about the book, so that probably even tightened your ability to do it.
Right. Yeah, and I constantly remind myself of resilience every day through my speeches. So really, it helps me in my business. Like, some months are great, some months aren't. You get some months where you're looking at your calendar, it's looking lonely. Like, oh, maybe I should go back to community college. But then I have these constant reminders, because I'm constantly telling everybody about resilience, about finding the positivity in life, and to keep on going. So I have to constantly listen to my own advice.
Yeah, and I'm curious, do you ever feel like an imposter syndrome yourself, literally preaching success all the time, but maybe in your calendar doesn't feel like successful, or whatever, some aspects of your life don't feel as successful? Does that ever become like a insecurity where, like, you're this shining example of success because you're always speaking about it? But I'm just curious, do you ever struggle with that?
So this is how I figured that out. In 2012, before I got suspended, I was like, look at my national championships. I've done this. I'm worth this.
Yeah.
And then I got suspended, and then I couldn't say that anymore.
Yeah.
And then I stopped allowing external factors to determine my internal worth. Bro, I am the shit. I'm the shit going into the ring. Whether I win or lose, that don't change what's happening. That don't change who I am.
Yeah.
I'm the shit regardless. It doesn't matter the outcome. I don't care about external factors. So in my life, I don't feel any bit of imposter syndrome, because I do everything I say.
Yeah.
I mean, pull up the Carfax. Everything I say I did. And everything I say I'm doing, I continue to do. Yeah, and when I fail or like I fall short, bro, nothing bad can happen to me.
Yeah.
Things just happen for me. I got into a car wreck when I totaled my car.
Yeah.
I got out my car and I shot a video right away. I'm like, this is my car. The best things that's ever happened to me has been after terrible things. Because in my mind, I'm like, oh, this is content for a speech.
Yeah.
That video is how I open up speeches now, bro. So
Yeah.
when I do fail and I fall short, I'm like, good. Now I have something else to talk about.
Yeah. It's and that's kind of what I'm talking about in terms of like failure and perspective. Like, I feel like most people who go through a car wreck would not have that initial reaction. They would view it as a terrible experience. Shit, I probably would too, because I've never been in such an experience. But like, that's a perfect example. You're like, whoa, now I have content to like, so, like, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of what I mean with successful people, like having a different way of thinking or looking at things. And so you can't call yourself anyone. No one can call you a failure because you don't even give people the opportunity to view it as that. You know, because of how you described it. You know.
Yeah, you have control of the stories you tell.
Yeah,
bro. I never said that loud. It was funny because I was on the side of the road. I took maybe 8 or 9 different videos because I cursed in some of them. I was like, oh, I can't use that on stage. I'll take another video. And I got one video and I used different catchphrases at the end of the video because I didn't know how I would use it in my speech.
Yeah.
So the one that kind of stuck is the best things that ever happened to me has been after terrible things. Let's see what this turns out to be. And that's how I phrase my optimistic outlook on life.
Yeah. People like to say you're having a minor setback for a major comeback. So man, it's interesting, man. I appreciate your perspective on things and your ability to transform pain into purpose. I think it's such an invaluable skill that I don't think I would love to see in more people, you know. But I think it's something that you really have to build up yourself. Like, I don't think no amount of books or like, you know, things can really do it. I just think you have to live it and be about it, you know. But I'm also was just curious about you as an author, because that's actually one of my personal goals too. I haven't wrote a book, but I would love to write an autobiography of my life one day. What was the process of writing a book like for you? And what did you learn about yourself in writing that book?
I'm sick of my story, bro. I'm because you write so much and then you rewrite stories and then you're like, oh, we can't use this person's name. That's gonna cause beef. And then you rewrite the story and then you move it around and you work with an editor and you rewrite and reread the same parts of your story so much that you're like, what part is in this book again?
Yeah.
Because I took out so many stories. So I like to write.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite things to do, hit a treadmill. I like to hit a treadmill and I run I'll do 8-9 miles on a treadmill and I'll knock out 3,000 words. Because like I'll write when I run. Like I write when I run.
Oh, you do it on your phone?
On my phone. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
That's how I wrote my whole book on a treadmill. And the better in shape I am, the better writer I become.
Wow, that's very interesting. I've never heard of someone with that creative process. And so you would write while on the treadmill every day while creating that book?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I would come up with stories, and I had some of the stories in there because I used to write blogs. I never published them, but I wrote. I just like to write, and so I had a lot of boxing stories that I had already written, and things that meant something to me, but I never knew what to do with.
Yeah,
and it's basically a formula: 1 + 2 = 3. How you become successful. In this formula, you are 1. 1 + 2 = 3. You are 1. You're always going to be your number 1. No one's going to believe in you until you believe in yourself. Number 3, 1 + 2 = 3. 3 is the objective, the goal, the outcome. What do you want? 2 in this is the hard work. And it's named number 2 because it's the shitty part of the job. It's the part that you don't want to do. Yeah. If you believe in yourself and you put in the work, there's no reason why you can't hit that goal. The only thing you cannot add to this equation is your feelings. Being discouraged is a feeling. Being lonely is a feeling. Goals don't care about your feelings. Like I hear, like, you have a little bit of an accent. Where are you from, man?
Nigeria.
Okay. Were your parents? Were you born here? Or
I was born in Nigeria. I was only here for a couple months, and then I moved to America.
Okay.
My parents were born in Nigeria, though. They lived in Nigeria.
Okay. Yeah. So you grew up with that culture.
Yeah.
And I don't know much about the Nigerian culture, but I could say in the U.S., our culture is a lot softer and forgiving. And that makes us softer, more forgiving. And in other words, it makes people from other places a lot tougher than us. They can endure more. They're more resilient. Because the more you go through, the stronger you become.
Sure. I agree.
We don't even let our kids go to school without AC or Wi-Fi.
Sure.
So I believe we're so much more capable than we believe we are, because society has taught us it's okay to be not okay.
Yeah.
Like, we don't got mental health issues in Trinidad.
Same thing in Africa. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no ADHD out there.
You know what's funny? I actually do have ADHD, but when I told my parents about it, they're like, "No, that's not true." Like, fuck that.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You're
right.
literally like, that doesn't even like, or like, why does that matter? Like, yeah, that's not even true. Like, you know what I'm saying?
That's just basically what it is. That's clearly American things.
Yeah.
Not that it's not real in other places, but they don't acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And things you don't acknowledge seems to bother us less.
Yeah.
And makes us more resilient. So anytime you feel like things are hard, like, realize it's a spectrum. It could be way harder. You're capable of so much more. People say they work hard. You can work 8 hours a day in an ergonomically correct chair with Wi-Fi and air conditioning. And after 8 hours, you're like, ooh, I worked so hard. There's a lady in the Congo mining for cobalt for 16 hours a day with a baby strapped to her back. She also thinks she works hard. How hard are you actually working? Are you working hard enough to deserve the things you want in life? Like, it ain't just given to you. And if it was, you wouldn't appreciate it.
Yeah, I think when it comes to hard work and some of these admirable characteristics like integrity, honesty, hard work, I don't think it's a binary thing where it's like, am I hardworking or not? It's like, how hardworking are you? Because I feel like you can compare it to other people, and you might think you be working hard. Then they meet someone like a Cam, and he's like, "Oh shit, I'm barely doing anything." You know what I'm saying? But they will probably self-identify themselves as a hard worker because of who they're comparing themselves to.
And that's an important part. Who are you comparing yourself to? Yeah. If you're the hardest worker in the room, go find a different room. Like, I'm the little dog in the rooms I'm in.
Okay.
I'm around everybody. I'm trying to be like.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, look, I respect your the strength and the character in your message, but honestly, I feel like it will probably be off-putting to a lot of Americans nowadays because we're so in touch with our mental health and our feelings. I'm not gonna lie, I am like that too. I wouldn't say I'm excessive, but I'm part of like, yo, we should acknowledge our feelings. But you seem like, nah, fuck that, bro. Like, your goals don't care about your feelings.
The goals don't care about your feelings.
It's true. There's truth to that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't met anyone great who's accomplished anything with moderation.
Yeah.
Like, go hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that's not what people want to hear, but it's like, if you tried everything else and everything else isn't working, try going hard. Try getting obsessed over something.
Yeah, and I want to push back and I'm curious to see, like, what if you go really hard and it comes at a cost of your sanity, where you just feel so stressed out that whatever you're going through doesn't seem like even like sustainable because you're working so hard, because that's how some people might feel about certain things. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm curious. What do you think that's like a valid thing, or like, no, not really?
How bad do you fucking want it?
Yeah.
How bad do you want it? Because somebody out there is going to work twice as hard for half the price just for the opportunity.
Yeah.
So it's like in school, everyone was special. Everybody ain't special. If everyone's special, then nobody's special. What makes you different?
Yeah.
What can you offer? And that value is not just money. I mean, can you ask the right questions? Can you show up on time? Can you be the best version of yourself? Those are the things that, bro, it's this close between first and second.
Yeah. No, man, I mean, I agree with you, and I think there's truth to be said, and I think at the end of the day, it's like what you said. How much do you really want it? Because I think oftentimes, like, people may achieve goals, and then they may not work hard or put as much effort towards it. But maybe it's because if they stopped, they just didn't really want it. They may have thought they wanted it, and they didn't. And I think that's a valid feeling in itself. But you got to be honest about that. I think that's where I think a lot of people will deceive themselves into thinking they want something where they really don't.
Yeah. And it's hard to be honest with yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, I even when I was in the van, if I'm being real, I was like, oh man, it's a great idea. I got my van going, and I couldn't afford to live anywhere else. So I took off, and I didn't have air conditioning in my van. It's a metal box. It was July when I took off. And I drove north because I thought that'd be the coolest place. And it's also hot in Canada. So there've been times where I'm just sitting in the van, I'm broke, it's lonely, there's no one to talk to. I can't relate to anybody else. Nobody else is peeing in a bottle.
Yeah.
Bro. And like during those times it's tough.
Yeah. Being honest with yourself is a very interesting topic in itself, and I think about being honest with myself and being radically transparent. I'm curious for you, what is the hardest thing you've ever had to be honest about yourself, or really have an ego check? Maybe it was from someone else, or with yourself, where you might have thought you were this, but in reality you're not. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Reality check. I've had quite a few reality checks.
Yeah.
One of the reality checks, in you name it, speaking, boxing, comedy.
Yeah.
Because my thing is to put myself out there.
Yeah.
And looking foolish is the cost of entry.
I'm
comfortable with pain, bro.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, if you're comedy, teaching,
keynote speaking, public speaking,
and putting yourself out there, it's hard because you have to be vulnerable, and you have to risk looking silly. And there's okay, when I started getting to the speaking world, I'd speak anywhere. I was speaking for free, and I won't name it was a leukemia.
Okay.
It was a leukemia charity in Kansas City.
Okay.
That they booked me to MC their event. It was this big event, and it was going to be huge. It'd be hundreds, probably 1,000 people.
Wow.
And they had a pre-event before this event to announce the sponsorship packages and a promotional event before the event. And I got to MC that as well. And I did so bad, bro. As it was starting, I was like, this is going bad. And I was like, I wonder if this is going as bad as I think it's going. Turns out it was. They told me they said the goal is to raise $500,000.
Yeah.
And we're at $5,000.
Oh, it's nice.
So I go to make the announcement, and I say, guys, our goal's at $500,000, and it looks like we've raised $500,000. And people lost their shit. People are like, yeah, we did it. We made the goal. And everyone's so happy. And the lady who's running the event approaches me annoyed. And she's like, we're at 5,000. The Southwest Want to Get Away video commercials back in the day?
Yeah.
It was. I had to go back on the microphone and tell everyone we didn't hit the goal. Needless to say, I got fired from that volunteer opportunity. They didn't have me host the actual event. And I had to look at that. I was like, okay, I learned. I'm not that good at emceeing yet. And I realized it was a skill to have. I couldn't put it together on the spot. And I started to MC vegan festivals around the country. And now I am a pretty damn good MC. But I had to get myself checked to see where I needed to go.
Yeah, man, but dude, that's a hilarious story. First of all, like, it's funny. It's one thing if it was like the goal was at like like you guys were at 400,000, like you were literally like divided by 100, like so the expectation set. Yeah, man, that must have been incredibly embarrassing. I can only imagine what you went through with that. However,
I wish I had $500,000 to donate in that moment, so I didn't have to make that announcement.
And then you're like, look, you see, I wasn't lying, bro. Like, no, that's so funny. But it's one of the things about the human mind that's so interesting to me is how repetition makes things like effortless for us. Like sometimes you see people being so great, like for example, like Jay-Z and rapping, like, you know, his rapping ability is so great, but he's done it so many times that it's just like effortless. Or for example, Steph Curry and shooting threes, like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's so interesting to me how like once you consistently repeat something, it just kind of becomes a part of who you are, and then you don't even really think about how great you are. Seems like that's the case that has happened for you with speaking.
Yeah, I'll tell people like, hey, like his kid will say, I want to play basketball. I'll say, what if you got to wake up as Steph Curry?
Yeah.
Could you do it if you had all of his money, all of his trainers? And they're like, yeah. I was like, you'd have to practice the way he practiced every single day. Hell yeah, I'd do that. Well, you can do that now.
Yeah.
He takes 1,000 shots a day. You could take 1,000 shots a day. Why aren't you doing that? You got to wait until you're him.
Yeah. Why don't you?
That's how you become him.
Also, if you want to be like Steph Curry, prepare to run around nonstop like crazy with his stamina. Like, I don't know if I can. He literally, like, I don't know how the hell he never stops running. Like, he literally never stops like running.
Because he never stops training.
Yeah.
Like to be that, you have to do that, and it's like, how bad do you want it?
Yeah. I'm with you, man. I'm with you, man. And it's how bad do you want it, man? You sound like Eric Thomas, the inspirational speaker. If you want to,
that's an honor. That's an honor.
Yeah. You sound like him, bro. Your energy reminds me of him. So, you know, man, as a keynote speaker and a leader, what would you say is like your ultimate goal? Because, you know, clearly you have done a bunch of different things in your life. You know, you're a boxer, you're an author, you know, now you're a keynote speaker. What would you say is the ultimate goal for you?
I want to inspire people to be the authentic selves. I think most systems are stupid. I am very much do things my own way. And I believe there's room for people to be their authentic selves and find success in life. You can find your passion and get paid for it and be able to be happy with who you are. And people don't believe that they can, so they won't. And so many people stopped believing when they were like 11.
Yeah.
And they never got that back. And I somehow found that belief of, like, I believe in magic, bro.
Sorry, how old are you, boss? Cam, just
36.
Okay, cool.
36, and I believe in magic.
That's the age where dreams start dying, like older 20s, younger 30s. That's when dreams kind of start to dry. Like,
bro, I'm starting to get gray. I'm starting to get grays, bro. I love it. The older I've gotten, the better my life has gotten.
Okay, that's great, bro. Man. It should be.
You think I fucked up the first 35 years of my life to not kill it the next 35? All of those mistakes I make, I'm not going to make again.
Yeah.
It's just going to get better.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you and I both got that going for ourselves. I can proudly say that each year my life gets better and better. And I will attribute that to wisdom and experience gained of knowing what to do and what not to do. And I hope that when we do fail, we actually learn from it. Because they say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So I hope like we can learn from our failures, because it's one thing to fail, but it's another thing to not self-correct the behavior that's causing you to suck. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say even you can sometimes even skip failing by learning from somebody else's failure.
Yeah.
Look, like here's one thing I don't think people do enough. Define what a loser is.
Mm,
Like you have a different definition of a loser than I do. So what is your definition of a loser? Just write it down, describe exactly what that type of person is.
mm,
And now you have a guide of what you don't want to be. If you think
mm,
a loser is like a person who shows up late all the time
mhm.
or is unreliable, these are traits that you need to make sure you avoid. We all have different definitions, and I use the term loser because it's more jarring. But think about what you don't want to be and take
Mhm.
steps to make sure you don't become that thing.
Yeah. 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 I love it, man. Well, this has been a great conversation. You filled with great advice, great storytelling, and inspiration. And I want to thank you for your time and your presence. For anyone who will be interested in connecting with you, maybe they want to work with you as a keynote speaker, or just simply reach out on social media. How can people do that?
Yeah, find me at Cam F Awesome on all social media. I'm not famous enough for anyone to try to take my name. And camfawesome.com.
Oh yeah, and that's right. Before we do end that, I do wanna touch on you making your name the word awesome. What was that about? And is your legal last name actually awesome, or you just self-proclaim that?
No, no,
Oh,
no. I am awesome. It's legal. It's legal. I went to City Hall,
oh,
birth certificate, passport. I did it because I don't believe in being humble. It doesn't serve me. When I
wow.
say that we don't rise to our potential, we fall to our positive internal dialogue.
Yeah.
I think I'm awesome.
Yeah.
So I will reach all of my potential because I think
Wow.
I will. I won't
Wow.
speak lowly of myself. I won't dim my light to make you feel better, Ike. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
me. And if it
Yeah.
rubs you the wrong way, buddy, that's a you problem.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know you actually like legally changed your name. I just thought you were like self-proclaiming yourself.
Now
Wow,
I'm
that's
about that
crazy.
life, son.
Yeah, no, no, dude, I respect it, bro. Like, I respect it, bro. Some of my favorite people in the world are that confident, like Tupac, Muhammad Ali. I respect it, and I hope that one day, through the art of consistent podcasting and public speaking, I can exuberate that same level of confidence and passion. But I think that's everyone's own journey. But I love that
Bro,
for you, man. Yeah.
I can't wait till you're self-aware enough to notice how amazing you are.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. That's a working journey, and I appreciate that. I think I need to hear that myself sometimes. I need to be like Cam and celebrate the hell out of myself. I'm that guy, bro. I love
Bro,
it.
you survived a pandemic.
Yeah, yeah,
Name all the things that you've done.
yeah,
Look at that as proof of how great you are.
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
shit is free, bro.
Yeah. I gotta get like you and start getting on my back, like, yo, man,
Talk
ain't no
your
one next
shit.
to it. Well, you hear it, folks, man. Talk your shit, and remember, the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Thank you, everybody. All right. Well,